Hey, I'm Josh, and this is Josh Nite. Today's episode, we're talking about how NFTs are changing the game for creators. Enjoy the show.
Hip hop hooray! Ho! Hey! Ho! Hey! Ho! Hey! Ho!
Welcome to the Josh Nite Show. Thanks for coming to watch me talk to some pretty dope people. Grab a seat and some snacks. Put up your feet and relax, cause there's nowhere else to go.
Hi, my name is
Josh, and this is my show. Don't even think about touching that remote.
Hi, my name is
Josh, now you got your snacks, so sit back, chillax, and enjoy the show. Enjoy the show. Sit back, chillax, enjoy the show. Enjoy the show. Enjoy the show. Sit back, chillax, enjoy the show. Enjoy the show.
Enjoy it!
Hey everyone, I'm Josh. This is Josh at Night. Actually, the first episode of Josh at Night. Really excited to have guest Ameer Carter on with us today. He's a Harlem-based visual artist and designer. Really all about building, supporting, and empowering underrepresented communities through new technology. So we're excited to talk about this kind of buzzword, kind of acronym, NFTs. You know, what the hell is an NFT? You see Gary Vaynerchuk. Obviously, I'm represented by Vayner Sports, and I like to consider myself a part of the Vayner family. You see all these tweets and posts, and it's the new wave, and you're trying to wrap your mind around it. So we're excited to have a creator himself, someone who's really active in the industry, to join us today. Ameer, how you doing, man?
Dude, great intro. I'm feeling great, man. This is awesome. I like this. This is great. NFT is it's blown up. It's kind of a wild thing. I was doing this in August and nobody was caring about NFTs, and now after December they're like NFT mania. So, yeah, it's a whole lot.
All right, so maybe that's a good place to start. We'll start at what is an NFT and what's the value. But let's start. What is an NFT? I know it stands for non-fungible token.
Right.
That's something to do with cryptocurrencies and blockchain. Decentralization. I'm just throwing out words here.
Right.
I know the loose association, but we have the expert here in Ameer. Ameer, can you let us know what an NFT is?
Absolutely. Yeah. So as Josh just aptly put, it stands for non-fungible token. The easiest way to think about anything that's non-fungible is uniqueness, right? So when we talk about fungibility, that just means like the same. And so one of the ways in which I use as a metaphor is the difference between, let's say, money and trading cards or houses or cars, right? Artwork, which is probably part and parcel of what we're going to be talking about a lot today. But when we talk about fungibility, if Josh asked me for $10, I could give it to him in multiple ways, right? I could give it to him in an amount of quarters. I could do 10 ones, I could do 2 fives, or a $10 bill. It all equals and means the same exact thing. But when we talk about non-fungibility, we're talking about a set of criteria that's so unique, you can't assign an equal amount of value with it across the board, right? So if we're thinking of trading cards, if Josh Martin has a trading card of his rookie year, right, and then maybe year 2, they're going to be ranked differently. They're the same type of paper asset, maybe the same type of image, but its value is different because it's rooted upon context. And context is what creates the uniqueness modifier that we leverage with non-fungible tokens. So that's kind of the easiest way to think about it.
Okay, so my understanding is that NFTs are essentially a unique, I like the word unique,
Right.
Kind of virtual artifact or representation of a physical artifact. Whether that be a piece of art or any sort of asset, really. Is that accurate?
Yes, absolutely. Yep, it's a unique. It describes a unique asset that you can verify, whether it's physical or it's digital. In most cases, we're going to be talking primarily about digital assets, but the concept of NFT is a vehicle to hold a unique piece of content. So we could talk about art. We could talk about movies, we could talk about photos, or we could talk about the deed to a house, right?
Okay.
So NFTs are a unique vehicle that hold a particular type of asset that you can verify on the blockchain.
Okay, so let's talk about art. What's the use case of NFTs? Excuse me. Why do they matter, and why are they such a big deal today?
Awesome. Yeah, so in the traditional art world, right, when we are thinking about how an art piece goes from the artist to a collector or a gallery or whatever, right? There's a level of provenance, right? The tracking, the ledger that says, I as an artist have created this work. I as an artist am now sending it to a gallery. The gallery then gets to say that they verify that I'm the artist that made the work, and then they sell it to someone else. Usually in the traditional context, that's kind of where it ends as far as tracking. Me as an artist, if I'm a small-time artist and I get represented by a gallery, I'm not going to know if that piece, after the person purchases it, is in somebody else's hands, or it goes to somewhere else, or what they even sold it for. So I don't know if my artwork is capturing any more value after the initial point of sale. And so in the digital context, at least in the blockchain and cryptocurrency, I can actually track my realized value across the entire life cycle of my work. So I can make the work, I authenticate and verify that I'm the person that made it because I'm minting it. When someone buys it and sends it to somewhere else and someone else and someone else, I can track all of that activity on the blockchain. And in an unprecedented way, I can also capture the value in the form of a royalty percentage every time it changes hands upon a point of sale.
Okay, and that's smart contracts.
Yes.
Something I've been reading, and I know that has something to do with smart contracts. All right, so when you're talking about understanding what happens to an art piece, the life cycle, the value of an art piece, why is that important for the artist to be included in that?
Right. So going back to traditional media, right? An artist wants to be able to capture their realized value for a couple of different reasons. One, I think for at least quality of life, right? You want to be able to make sure that you can perpetually earn off of your creative, off your creative work. Especially if you become an artist where your work is so ubiquitous and huge and enjoyed by a bunch of people, you want to be able to not just only have the notoriety or the exposure of being that artist that has done that, but you should also be able to actualize that value into a form of currency so that you can live. So I think that's part and parcel, right? Like quality of life. The second thing is that being able to track that value means that you understand kind of like what your worth is to a particular market. It enables you to find a better method on how to price your work moving forward. It also enables you to understand how the secondary marketplace kind of like values your work too. And what we've seen in the traditional context is when certain people with large amounts of money want to sort of manipulate a particular market, they could take an unsuspecting artist and then drive up the secondary value of that work. Meaning, like, I buy the work from you, for example, and then I'm getting a bunch of my friends to say, let's just bid up on this work insanely high, right? And we can use that to, whether it's like money laundering, washing, so on and so forth, right? But at the end of the day, because that artist's value isn't actually worth that much, you can crash their secondary market, which then means that their work becomes meaningless and valueless. And so you can really impact dangerously an artist's career by the manipulation of the secondary market. So if an artist knows how their work is being valued over time, they can work against that type of manipulation as well.
Yeah, so that's what I want to talk about next. You're big on communities, building communities, helping support, empower, we mentioned this earlier, underrepresented communities with these new technologies, NFTs and blockchain. When you talk about gatekeepers and decentralization and NFTs, what does that mean for creators of color or underrepresented groups? Because I think at the end of the day, people are buying up all these NFTs, but really it puts the power and the value back in the creator's hands.
Absolutely. Right. And so, you know, the thing about decentralization that I want to make clear too is that even though the blockchain technologies afford us this type of, you know, way in which we can communicate with each other, it still requires the human work for us to make the system equitable and transparent and, you know, inclusive. And so the thing about art within this context is that we have to ensure that the folks that are building these platforms have those ideologies in mind. Because right now, if you want to participate in this system, we've already started to see some forms of inequities when it comes to how platforms may, signal particular artists that aren't of color, right, more so than others, or not being able to position BIPOC communities, right, to take more advantage of, being visible within this space. There's a lot of chatter that's been going on about folks that have been wanting to acquire, art from women, art from Black folks, Indigenous folks, queer and LGBTQIA folks, or whatever the case is, but can't find them, right? And so
you're talking to one, man. It's so hard to find that art.
Right, exactly. And
it's so hard.
And so if the platforms themselves are not taking up that responsibility, then it takes more of the communities to galvanize the resources to then build these things. And that's a part of, what I'm doing as being a part of this movement, is creating those tools, those pipelines through my institution, The Well, so that we can empower these communities to say, we're here, we exist, we're badass, and here's a pathway to acquire our work and our creativity, and to become patrons of the cultural birth that we're giving to this space, right? So, that's kind of like where I'm thinking. And that's why I'm really into this space, and why I think it's a super powerful thing. Because if we're able to do that here, then we can set the precedent for how platforms, communities, and things are formed in the future, and just what our digital ecosystem can be.
Okay, and so when you're talking about the work that you do with The Well and the platforms that you're enabling, these creators to build for themselves, do you have any examples of those?
Absolutely. Mint Fund is one of those examples. Mint Fund is a artist-led community that is dedicated to onboarding artists globally from marginalized and underrepresented communities to participate into this space of becoming crypto creators.
Okay. All right. So Mint Fund, you can create NFTs. That's how.
Yes.
So what does that process look like, man? Because you know what, I've been seeing how much these NFTs are going for, and I'm not gonna lie, man. I'm interested, and I want to ask you a couple questions about that.
Absolutely.
So how do you create an NFT on Mint Fund? I actually just signed up for the Discord.
Nice.
So I got my invite, so I'm gonna,
love it.
Awesome.
Yeah,
I'm gonna peek around a bit.
Happy to have you here. So right now, the Mint Fund, as it stands, is that we are kind of in a way a sponsor. So what we would do currently is an artist that they have a concept and an idea. We will work with them to push the envelope for their concept, so that when they're ready to mint, and we have a couple of partners that we work with specifically, but we're platform agnostic, right? We want to enable any artist to mint on whichever platform that speaks to them the most.
Okay, so there's not that sense of exclusivity. It's inclusivity. That's the defining trait of the Mint Fund, and why it's less of a gatekeeper and more of a come one, come all.
Absolutely.
Especially when it comes to the underrepresented groups.
Absolutely.
Okay. I want to do a pivot now. You're a creator yourself. You've created virtual art. You created physical art too, I would imagine. Yep. What was it like when you sold your first NFT? Take us through the whole process. Let's start at I have an idea. I'm going to create this. I'm going to mint it. I'm going to put it up for sale. Let's just take us through that whole kind of story there.
Yeah. Okay. So last August, my friend Leighton, AKA Late Effects, he called me, he was like, dude, like, I'm going to sell my Instagram filters on the blockchain. I'm looking at him like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
You could do that? He's like, yeah. He sends me the link to his Rarible account. Sure enough, I see his Instagram filter, like, for sale, for like 88 ETH at the time. And I'm like, oh my, like, dude, is this working for you? He's like, look, I just tried it out. We're going to see. So for me, I'm like, okay, this is interesting.
You can do that? I feel like a lot of people are asking that. It's like, you put what on? They're selling tweaks. They're selling everything. They're minting and tokening and all sorts of stuff.
It's wild.
You can do that. That's the tagline of blockchain and NFT. Is like, you can do that.
Real talk. It really is kind of like a co-opted Nike. Like, NFT it, just do it. Like, it's there. You can. Yeah. And so I had this concept for this rock band. I made a graphic novel when I was in university, because I went to SCAD, the Savannah College of Art and Design, so I'm like trained a little bit in art. But in any case, I had these characters, and I was like, it'd be interesting to sell them as sort of like these cards. and I made them all up, made them as like sort of like GIFs. They're called the Sirens. Excuse me. Okay. And I threw them up on Rarible. I made a whole post on Twitter. This is the first time ever on Twitter I had this type of engagement. Like I've never, I'll tweet.
This is last August.
This is last August, and I had like over 200 like likes and retweets. I'm like, this is unprecedented. I get 5 likes on a good day. This is crazy. Yeah. I put NFT once, and then it's like an explosion. So I'm like, all right, cool. This is interesting. People are like, who is this guy into the scene? Interesting artwork. We don't know him yet, but we're warming up to it. I join the Discord, and I have conversations with some people, and they're talking about narrative, and I'm like, interesting, okay, cool. I'm all about storytelling. Storytelling's great. About 3 weeks in, I go to Rarible. I see a little red bolt, which is like their notification. Click on it, and something got sold. I said, oh my God.
Oh my!
Somebody just bought this.
How much did it sell for?
I think it was like 0.3 ETH at the time, which was like roughly $150. Okay. Now for me,
it's more now though.
Man, it resold again for 0.3, the same price, and that was $900. So I'm just like, oh, okay, all right,
it's
cool,
trending, okay,
yeah. And then the royalty hit my account, and I'm like, oh.
So you get royalties every time.
Every time, it was real for me right then and there.
Yeah.
And so but when I first, I'm like, wow, somebody spent $150 for this animated trading card I just made.
But there's only one.
There's only one,
right?
and I'm like,
there's only one.
And I'm like,
okay,
shit, that's real. Yeah. Oh man, I got to do this again. This is great.
So you did it again, right?
So I was like, okay, I'm going to promote this, but I want to try something else. So I started putting up some posters that I was making. And I like doing them in sets because I like the idea of creating kind of like a narrative over time, not just one piece, but like multiples.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay, cool. I had like this series called The Monoliths that I was just posting out. Those were multiple copied posters. Those were selling. I'm like, oh, like $50 a piece. I'm like, oh, this is great. Okay. So then I'm like, let me try something different. I put up a poster, and looking at how Zora and Foundation used to be, they were kind of tokenizing assets for physical things, and they had this bonding curve that would, as people bought it, the price of the token would increase because they had multiple editions or copies or whatever. So I'm like, what if I could simulate that with this work, with these posters I'm doing?
So the more you sell, the higher the price would
exactly.
raise.
The thing was, I couldn't program it because I didn't write this smart contract, so I had to just do it off of known origin. But what I did was I had a poster, started it at 0.15 ETH, that got sold. Changed the price to 0.25. About a month later, that got sold. Then I changed it to 0.35. Took a month, but then that got sold. I'm like, oh, okay. This is for me and minting is about experimentation. Because
experimentation, you're making some money.
Exactly. There's a concept for me where I'm like, me as an artist, I have both, of course, a body of work that I do want to like really push out. But then there's also this thing that I don't want to be relegated to just the body of work. And so when you think of a traditional artist, especially like in, painting, whatever the case is, right? It's not like they don't have room for experimentation, but the body of work is the body of work. It sort of really defines kind of like your artistry. And so what you do has to really be within that schema of how you write your body of work or how you write your artist statement. For me, my artist statement is, I'm Ameer, I make stuff, right? That doesn't really help somebody when they're trying to figure out my narrative. I write the storytelling within the work, and so that beat of work is like where I'm thinking of at a particular point in time in my life. And so the body of work almost is sort of like, if you know me throughout time, then you can understand the context as to why I built something. And so for me, this space allows me to have the affordance to play around with the types of ideas that come through my head without having me be relegated to how a gallery might perceive me as an artist. And so for me, experimentation is heavy. For example, I dropped voice notes on a platform called Zora. These voice notes were chopped up. It was like it's like 3 voice notes, kind of like a total of 20 or so minutes.
And they were minted.
They were minted.
Tokenized.
I tokenized them. I minted them on Zora.
Okay.
They are clips of me recording on my phone, because at first I was trying to really like Shazam the music, but it was a recording of a DJ set at this beach house party in the middle of nowhere in Japan when I was having an artist residency there. And the first audio clip is me having a conversation with some of the other artists about hitting the record store. That's like 3 minutes. There's a 15-minute kind of like real, almost feels like a short film, where I'm eating an omelet in like 4 a.m, and you're hearing the waves crashing, you're hearing kind of this music, and you're hearing people asking me throughout this entire 15 minutes what I'm eating, and I'm repeating a Chinese omelet. And it's kind of like a funny thing. And then the last one is a conversation that I'm having with one of the directors of the program with this other dude who's trying to get him to do something, and he's like saying like, no, not now, I'm gonna do it later. But it's weird. It's just like a string of conversations that are a part of this party that when I dropped them, people were saying, oh my God, like I wish I was there. I wish I could be at a party. There's something nostalgic about this. It was also triggering other types of emotions and like memories that other people were having. Somebody DM'd me like a whole novel about like how they felt after listening to it and like their whole personal life story. It was nuts, the type of like connection the work was making.
Yeah.
And it sold like a total of like nearly 9K for like at least 2 out of the 3.
And that's just an audio,
That's an audio clip
of your voice.
It's nuts, man.
And just like your surroundings, not even exclusively your voice or a performance of yours exclusively. It was just really a captured experience or moment in time that people connected to. And I think that speaks to just the opportunities and the possibilities. Like everything is so new right now. So it makes sense to experiment and see what's possible. I would think that if you're on NFT and you're creating something, it would be a nice goal or standard to have someone ask, you can do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's kind of pushing the boundaries of what's possible, and as a creator, especially, man, I was thinking I need to figure out how to make an NFT. I think that's the goal. I'm going to be on this Discord heavy.
Please do.
To figure that out, man. But I appreciate your time. Everyone, this has been Ameer Carter. Where can we find you, Ameer? I know you're on just about all the platforms.
Yes, I'm everywhere. But if you really want to engage with me, follow me on Twitter at Sirsuhaib, which is SIRSUHAYB. Or you can check me on Instagram at _Sirsu, SIRSU. That's normally where I'm at. You can also find me at Sirsu, SIRSU on Clubhouse, because I sometimes host NFT 101s. And you'll probably
what does that mean?
An NFT 101 is essentially like I've run a course for a week, right? 5 days, and I'll break down everything related to blockchain, crypto, how to set up a digital wallet, how to purchase Ethereum, how to mint an NFT, the differences between all the platforms and protocols that exist, the other types of blockchains that you could make NFTs on, and then how to market yourself, how to experiment within this medium, and of course, what this can mean for your creative career. There's a whole host of stuff that, like, within this space, I think is super powerful. Like, NFT is not just a means to make money, but it's a means to make a self-sustaining ecosystem that's built off of the value that you create, right? And I think, like, shifting the thought process around, like, oh, it's just me investing and finding the right art to buy and flip. Yes, you can very well do that. There is a huge market for that, and I encourage
that's
you.
Not what it's about, though. I feel like just like what you said, it's about creation.
Yes.
What value are you providing to the market or to the whatever infrastructure or blockchain that you're participating in?
Absolutely, and it's really rooted in being you, right? Like, don't look at the market and say, oh, because everybody's doing 3D, that you need to do 3D. I don't do 3D, really. Like, I may collaborate with a 3D artist, but most of my work has been audio. My work has been, flat 2D, and it's been mixed media. And I've been able to find success. There are other traditional artists that I've been able to onboard that have also found amazing success. One of the people that I really work with and value highly, his name is Sean Williams, or at iArt sometimes on Twitter. He was having fun at his house and ended up kicking a hole in the wall. And a collector of his had told him to NFT it, to mint that. And then that became a story. He sold it for 7 ETH. And it's those types of
stories, man.
Yeah,
The narratives.
exactly. That's the bead. That's what creates the difference between you being successful in this space or any space as a creative, versus not.
I mean, truly. I mean, that's. I mean, I believe you, man. I think when you look at the most valuable, even conversations or stories, everyone connects to the story. There's an emotional connection and kind of relevance that emanates from anything that represents more than itself.
Absolutely.
What it stands
Absolutely.
for. Amir, man, thank you so much. We have to continue this conversation.
Please, I can't wait.
Yeah, man. And Amir dropped his tags. Follow along. And for anyone's watching, if you have any questions, man, I have so many more questions, and I think we'll get to them eventually on the show. But Ameer, thank you so much.
Thank you. This has been amazing.
Hey everyone, I'm Josh Martin, and you just watched an episode of Josh at Night. If you liked what you saw, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe, share your thoughts in the comments. There's a new episode dropping soon.